On this super review, let's take a look at the Shozy Neo CP. What does CP stand for? I'm glad you asked. I have no idea. But this is an in-ear monitor from the company Shozy Neo. I'm not really sure because, well, here in the box, they're just Shozy, and I've seen them produce some other IEMs under the name Shozy, but this one, as well as one other, are under the brand Shozy Neo. But despite not knowing what CP means, or even what Shozy Neo necessarily means, I am actually really excited about this in-ear monitor because I think the aesthetics and the shape of it are really appealing to me. So for starters, this is not a cheap IEM. These things cost around 160 bucks right now on Amazon. And at 160 bucks, there's some pretty good stuff. So let's go and open it up. We'll find out what $160 gets you, because this packaging, I'll be frank, not impressed so far, but that doesn't matter. What's gonna really matter is how's the build and how do these things sound? How do these things compare to something like the 10Hz P4 Pro or maybe even the BGVP DM6? Let's find out. All right, this box might not be much to look at, but damn, that was a good spin. Let's do a quick tour of the box. There's not gonna be much we'll find out. It's got the CP logo on the front, which again, I'm not sure what CP stands for. We got the Shozy logo over here. It is a tri-BA design, which means that it is an all balanced armature headphone, and there are 3 of them. Down here, let's see, presented by Shozy Cross Neo Audio. CP in-ear monitor offers premium hand-built craftsmanship, combined with meticulous sound tuning, fusing Knowles balanced armatures and a specially designed high extension tweeter unit. Okay, that's actually interesting. I didn't know before reading that right now that these things actually have a Knowles balanced armature driver in there. You will experience detailed natural sound with precise imaging and an enjoyable soundstage. Now, those are good promises. Those are kind of my ideals. I like natural sound over a colored or warm sound. I like a natural sound. I like precise imaging and an enjoyable soundstage. They don't claim big bass, and that's okay for me because I don't, I'm into big bass, don't get me wrong, but I don't need it. But will the things that I do need be found here in the CP? Let's go ahead and open it up and find out. All right, so we got the Shozy Neo CP completely unboxed, and for 160 bucks, this is what you get. I don't think it's too bad. Let's start over here with the case, which everything came packaged in this little carrying case, and this is actually a pretty nice little case. It's a little bigger than I typically like, but it is large enough to hold all of these tips that it comes with. Speaking of those tips, look at that selection of tips. That's definitely more than you typically get. You get 3 sets of foams, including what these appear to be 2 larges and then one pair of smalls. You do also get 3 sets of these double flange ear tips, and that's interesting. And then it comes with 3 pairs of these really kind of oddly shaped ear tips. I don't know, is that coming across in the camera? These things are kind of funky. These are very shallow and very flat on the top. And they come in 3 sizes. It looks like they've got the largest size pre-installed on this headphone. And I don't know, does that mean that this is the one that they think matches with it the best? Interestingly, seeing it here on the earphone, you can see that this shallow fit is actually keeping the end of the IEM nozzle really surprisingly close to your ear. These seem to be a little bit different than your typical IEM tips. And I'm wondering how sensitive these things are gonna be to different tips, so I'll do some experimenting with them. Then we get here down to this cable, and this is just, I would say, a fantastic cable based on early impressions here. You got a straight terminal jack down here. You've got this really handsome braid with this copper and silver color intertwined. It comes up to a Y-split with this handsome clear bead chin cinch, which is going to be very functional if you're into chin cinches. Then we get up here to the terminals, the opposite end terminals, and these are preformed hooks, which is exactly what I like. And they are MMCX connectors, which is generally what I like. And just, yeah, I think overall this cable has got a really nice feel to it. A nice drape, it's nice and soft. It's not gonna hold memory. It's not gonna fight you at all. This is definitely one of the nicer cables I've seen packaged in with a headphone. And then we get up here to the buds, and again, I think these are some of the nicer looking buds I've ever seen on a headphone. These things are made out of plastic instead of a metal, but it is a completely solid plastic. I don't know if you want to call it an acrylic or a resin or whatever, but it is completely solid. You can see that the way that the light bends coming through it, it has like a very glass-like character to it, and it's very, very clear. Apart from the fact that, well, they've handsomely colored them so that you've got a little red on the right and a little blue on the left, which I'm a sucker for that color scheme. Apart from those colors, these things are just super, super clear, and you can really see the details in the balanced armatures and the circuitry inside. And I don't know, that's just kind of a small, nice little touch that I think makes these things look pretty special. Oh, actually, I forgot one other thing about these things, is it comes with a different set of filters that you can screw onto the ends. And so they do, of course, have one set of filters pre-installed, and I don't know what the difference is between them, but looking at them here, it looks like the mesh on the inside is slightly different pattern. What is that gonna mean for the sound signature? I don't know. Hopefully I can find out. And hopefully I don't lose those, frankly, because these are really small and it didn't come with any sort of little carrying case for those tips or for those filters. That said, look, this is as much as I can find out about this headphone right now, so I'm gonna go ahead and bring my Walkman, hook them up, run them against my reference library of music, some FKJ, some Michael Jackson, some De La Soul. What else have I been into? Some Alice in Chains acoustic, of course. Oh, and I've actually been listening to a little bit of Tracy Chapman, which is a nice test of vocals. So I'm gonna go ahead and listen to these things, and I'll come back and I'll let you know, how do these things stack up to other $100, $160 headphones? Because I'll tell you right now, they look damn good. All right, after spending quite a bit of time with the Shozy Neo CP for the past week, I'm ready to let you know what I think. And frankly, I think I might have one of my favorite headphones here in my hands. So let's start with talking about the general build of this headphone, which is one of the reasons it's one of my favorite headphones. And frankly, I might be a little bit biased for this headphone because I like this build so much. And I love this build so much because basically everything looks good, everything feels good, everything fits good. It's just a really surprisingly good package. And we can start by talking about these plastic shells up top. They are a completely solid acrylic. They are gorgeous. They are perfectly clear. You know, I've got a number of other IEMs that have these clear acrylic shells, and I really love this look. However, I think that Shozy and Neo, whatever you want to call them, I think they've done it especially well here. The plastic is just shockingly clear, and then the light coloration on the shells, I think, gives it just a really classy, nice touch. And apart from just looking really nice, I think these are also my favorite fitting in-ear monitors. Now, I've got some others that fit basically the same. I've got, you know, the File FH1, which I also really like the fit of. These things are essentially the same shape, and I don't know what it is about this style right here, but man, these things just plug into my ears. They don't feel bulky at all, but they do feel super, super secure. So, you know, there are some other buds I've got, like the File FA1 or the 10 Hz P4 Pro. They've got a little bit more of a molded shape that fits, you know, very, very securely as well. However, those are just a little bit bulkier. And for me, it's not a problem that they're bulky, but they are a little bit bulkier. These things fit just as secure, but they don't feel bulky at all. In fact, the fit on the CP here is so good that this is one of the few headphones that I've fallen asleep in and woken up still wearing. Like typically if I go to sleep wearing a headphone, I'll wake up in the middle of the night and take it off and put it on my nightstand. These things, a couple of different nights, I've woken up with them still in my ears because they just were never an issue while I was sleeping. We can also talk about this cable, which is a very nice cable. This is, you know, just about the best cable I've seen packed into a headphone, so I don't really have any complaints with it. I think it looks really nice. It's got a really nice drape to it. It's got an effective chin cinch. Yeah, I have no complaints with this cable whatsoever, or really with the build at all. Maybe the one thing that's worth calling out is that these ear tips are a little bit different. They're a little bit different, but I didn't have any issue with them. And I also didn't have any issue with putting on more traditional ear tips. I was kind of concerned that because these tips fit so close to the ends of the nozzle that maybe that would be kind of a requirement for this headphone, but no, I would just put on some normal ear tips that, you know, had the normal sort of gap between the end of the tip and the nozzle, and yeah, no issues with the sound. They still sounded great. Which brings us to talking about the sound. And like I mentioned, I might be kind of biased for this headphone just because I like how this build is so much, but I do actually really like the sound of this as well. I would say generally it's a pretty clean, natural sounding headphone, a little neutral-ish, but also a little bit warm. It's got a little bit of a warm tilt to it compared to something like, you know, the Tin Hi-Fi T3, definitely warmer than the T3, but even a little bit warm compared to something like the 10 Hz P4 Pro. I recently reviewed the BGVP DM6, and I also described that as a warm sounding headphone. And in fact, I used that warm description as one of the reasons why I wasn't that excited about it. And just for context, this is still a warm sounding headphone, but it's not nearly as warm sounding as the DM6. There is more upper mid-range emphasis here than you get on something like the DM6. And for me, that's really what I need in order to get an engaging sound. And I get that here with the CP. So like I said, it's generally kind of a neutral-ish sound. There's a pretty nice strong bass, but it's definitely not an emphasized bass. If you're looking for a lot of bass, you might still prefer something like the DM6, but I think the bass is pretty well done on these things. The mid-range is relatively flat with a little bit of emphasis on the upper mid-range, not quite as much as you would get on a brighter sounding headphone, something like the FiO FA1, but there is still some upper mid-range emphasis there. And then you get into the treble, which is, I would say, relaxed, but also, again, a little bit of emphasis in there. So this is not a fatiguing headphone at all. I can listen to this thing all day. Part of that is because of the comfort of the buds, but also part of that is because of the comfort of that sound signature, which is just kind of very natural, slightly warm sounding, but also just very crystalline clear. As for the interchangeable filters, I gotta be honest, I can't really tell you what the difference is. And I'm not gonna say that there's no difference, just that by the time I swap the filters and put the tips back on and put the earphones back in my ear, I can't really tell what that difference is. If someone knows what that difference is, let us know in the description or in the comments down below. But really, I wouldn't use those filters as a reason to get this headphone. Comparing these directly to the FiO FA1, which I recently reviewed, I would say the FiO has a little bit more upper mid-range emphasis, a little bit more treble, but these do have, I think, stronger bass than the FiO FA1. Compared directly to the BGVP DM6, again, I would describe the DM6 as much warmer sound, much more emphasis on the lower mid-range versus the upper mid-range. I would say the DM6 also has quite a bit more bass, maybe even a little bit more treble emphasis. And the DM6 just generally, to my ears, doesn't sound as crystalline clear as this. I would say that the DM6 maybe has a wider sense of space, a bigger sound stage, but the separation and the instrument separation and the imaging and stuff on these is also still pretty strong. So if I were to rate the Shozy Neo CP out of 5 stars, this is a very easy 5-star headphone for me. In fact, this is one of my favorite headphones that I've got. Now, it's not cheap. It's 165 bucks on Amazon right now, so it's definitely not cheap, but it is cheaper than something like the BGVP DM6, and to my ears, this is a more natural sound. And to my ears, that's what I like. I like a more natural, clean sound with a little bit of treble detail, a decent bass, but really a mids focus. And that's what we got here. The fact that we get that sound in an earphone that looks this good and fits this good, I think it just rounds out the package. And for me, I think it's definitely worth the asking price. If you're interested in checking out the Shozy Neo CP, of course, I've got links in the description down below. While you're down there, you can hit the like button for the video. If you liked it, you can subscribe to the channel. And then I'll see you on the next super review.